Welcome to our Cybertalks interview series. I'm Wyatt Cash on behalf of CyberScoop, and I'm here with Tim Sandage, Senior Manager, Security Partners at Amazon Web Services. Tim, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. My pleasure.
So I'd like to first ask, there's been a lot thrown at Chief Information Security Officers in 2020. How would you say 2020 has sort of changed the trajectory or responsibilities of the CISO today?
Yeah, I mean, it's very complicated. Obviously, we were already throwing a lot at them with extending the endpoints. And when you think about a traditional CISO's job, they've been trying to deal with remote workers and mobile devices and laptops on airplanes and in different countries and so forth for last couple of years. But now this year, we've really thrown a lot at them with COVID, where you now have your endpoints are not only all dispersed, but now you actually have employees and organizations that are using systems and services or devices in that matter that are not necessarily owned by the organization. And so you now have to figure out, how do I make sure that I secure the delivery and give the secure access, the availability, as well as keep up the confidentiality of the content and the data protection that needs to be in place on any device that a end user is using. And so it's become very complex. And so leveraging things, from AWS, like, secure workspaces and our Connect, our virtual call center, or app streams and so forth, it really gives the ability to be able to secure where the employee is actually, needing to work on, on almost any device. Obviously, we still have some device security concerns, and that's still going to be a continued, headache for some CISOs out there, because obviously some of the state and local governments and smaller businesses didn't necessarily have the resources to give those devices to go support those remote workforce. So it's complicated, but we've definitely put together some programs, such as our security solutions program, that is helping pre-bake security into some of those deployments that we've seen, for the remote user or for, remote call centers or remote students and so forth. So it's something that we're really trying to get in front of and make sure that we support them.
Well, as you mentioned, workforces are now so much more distributed and are likely to stay that way for the foreseeable future. But what has that taught security leaders from your point of view when it comes to actually implementing security policies for their organizations?
Yeah, and I think that that's the other real learning that we've worked, seen over the last several years, is that historically policies have been administrative documents. They've been written policies, written procedures. Time has proven that whether we like it or not, employees don't necessarily always read them or comprehend them or understand the significance of at a point in time when they're just trying to do their job. Because more often than not, employees are not being nefarious; they're just trying to execute whatever is in front of them. So policies now is really the focus, and the shift is automating security policies and making sure that they, that you're what we call guardrails. That you're putting guardrails in place. It says, okay, employee, A and employee B, you can use these 2-lane roads to get through and get your job done, but we're going to make sure that you stay in the middle of this. Or maybe in some cases, we expand it to a 6-lane highway and say, yeah, you can really branch out and do these things, but there's policies in place that are virtual or they're leveraged through automation to make sure that that they're actually implemented, real time and ongoing. So that's kind of the big change or shift, is making sure that traditional security policies and procedures are now, being automated, and the cloud gives you a lot of opportunities there, because we do speak a common language on the cloud. Services are interacting, and you're able to stitch them together, through what's called infrastructure as code capabilities, and making sure that you're running a secure as code, environment. So there's a lot of advantages, but again, the learning curve is still there for a lot of organizations. So we put a lot of effort into helping our customers do that.
Well, next, I'd like to ask a little about things like IoT and 5G technologies. They continue to come online in the US, and that obviously means more technology being brought in-house to handle those improvements. But with those, come a series of supply chain concerns as well. So how should enterprises collectively handle those kinds of concerns while still trying to, make sure we don't fall behind technologically?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And obviously that, IoT security is, relatively the same as any other security. Is that you've got, an operating system, you've got a database, you've got some type of, communication stream. The issue that becomes more important is identifying the IoT asset, the physical asset that's out there, that's distributed, whether it's a smart light, it's a smart thermostat, whatever the case may be. That is the communication to that, is it secured or can it be secured, to know that the integrity of data that's being transmitted between that device and that secure, network that's supporting that. How do you make sure that the integrity and the confidentiality is there? But then moreover, kind of back to the 5G, as we go more and more into that, is really how do we secure across, common, wireless or cellular lines and so forth. And so that's the other concern, is making sure that, understanding the sensitivity of the data. In some cases, information is turn light on may not be super sensitive data, but there may be metadata, there may be other things that are, related on geography, related on, ownership, and some of those things that we've got to think through from an IoT or going across like a 5G network. And so I think there's just some net new things that organizations and security professionals have to think about. Is it, we can always secure, the use of the cloud that's being able to support those. It's really that transmission across 5G and that interaction with that IoT device that we've got to think through.
And lastly, as you know, cybersecurity threats continue to grow in sophistication, and organizations at the same time face a persistent challenge in recruiting skilled cybersecurity professionals. How can enterprises and maybe the nation as a whole close some of these gaps that exist in the nation's current cybersecurity education and training landscape?
Yeah, no, you're hitting a hot topic for me at the moment, because I too am, trying to find people to be on our team, and I think the key is really getting the right training. I mean, there's so much evolution that's going on in our industry right now, and the advanced persistent threats or traditional threats, just simple things like antivirus and so forth. That stuff still exists, and so we need to be able to educate, whether they're students or our workforce or whatever the people that are trying to get into this industry or trying to remain relevant in this industry, is, these are the skills that you need, especially as we go to a, more and more organizations are adopting cloud first policies. They're moving their complete infrastructure and corporations and enterprises over to the cloud. And so it's really trying to get those, personnel out there that are in this space to understand, yes, there are a lot of similarities to security in the cloud as there is on premise. There's just terminology differences, and there's implementation differences. And then there's obviously things like shared responsibility that, yes, AWS does certain things to help secure the customer's capability to run secure compute and secure databases and so forth. But then the customer has to do a lot of the security pieces themselves, or those security professionals. So, getting the relevant training out there, getting some of this coursework integrated into our universities and into higher ed. That's one of the other pieces that we're focused on, is how do we get, curriculum that's specific to real-time, cloud security capabilities. But again, the hardest thing is we're evolving constantly. So the minute that we get it into the school system, it's outdated. So we've got to keep that real-time activity going on to train those next cybersecurity, personnel that we're all trying to hire right now.
A daunting task, but appreciate your insights on that. And Tim Sandage, thank you so much for taking time to join us here at Cybertalks and sharing some of your thoughts on the subject.
Not a problem. My pleasure. Thanks for your time.